Nate glanced at his watch and let out a sigh of frustration. It was already past midnight, and he was still hours away from reaching his destination. The rain poured relentlessly, creating a symphony of drumming on the roof of his car. Nate was driving down a desolate stretch of road known as the Terrible Road, a name that sent shivers down the spines of even the most fearless travelers. The Terrible Road had gained a reputation for its treacherous twists and turns, leading to numerous accidents and mysterious disappearances. Nate had heard the stories, but he didn't pay much attention to them. He considered himself a pragmatic person, not easily swayed by superstitions or urban legends. However, as he continued his journey, an unsettling feeling began to gnaw at him. The road seemed to stretch on endlessly, surrounded by dense forests that swallowed any signs of civilization. The headlights of Nate's car cut through the darkness, casting eerie shadows on the trees that lined the roadside. He gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles turning white. Suddenly, Nate's headlights flickered, and his car sputtered before coming to a complete stop. He cursed under his breath and attempted to start the engine again, but to no avail. Panic started to rise within him as he realized he was stranded on the Terrible Road, miles away from any help. Stepping out of the car, the rain drenched Nate within seconds. He took out his phone, hoping to call for assistance, but there was no signal. The isolation and silence made him feel vulnerable. A chill ran down his spine as he heard rustling sounds coming from the darkness. "Hello," he called out, his voice barely audible over the rain. No response. Nate's instincts urged him to retreat to the safety of his car and lock the doors, but a flickering street lamp up ahead caught his attention. It was the only source of light for miles, and he decided to investigate. With every step, Nate felt an unexplainable presence watching him. The light flickered ominously, casting eerie shadows on the road. He reached the street lamp and peered into the darkness, his eyes straining to make out any shapes. Suddenly, the light went out, plunging him into darkness. Nate's heart raced as he fumbled for his flashlight, praying that it would work. With a flick of the switch, a beam of light illuminated the area. To his horror, he found himself standing at the entrance of an old, abandoned house. Its windows were broken, and the wind whistled through the cracks in the walls. Feeling a mix of curiosity and unease, Nate cautiously stepped inside the house. The floorboards creaked beneath his weight, and dust swirled in the air as he explored the dimly lit rooms. Cobwebs clung to the corners, and furniture lay covered in dusty sheets, untouched for years. As Nate moved deeper into the house, he stumbled upon a room that seemed oddly out of place. The air grew heavy, and a chill ran down his spine. In the center of the room, he discovered a lifeless body lying on the floor, a man who had gone missing weeks ago. The sight sent shivers down Nate's spine, and he felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Fear gripped Nate as he stood in the eerie room, surrounded by the stillness of death. He knew he had to find answers and escape the Terrible Road before it claimed another victim. With a determined resolve, he decided to investigate further, searching for any clues that could shed light on the mysterious circumstances surrounding the man's death. As Nate carefully examined the room, he noticed a torn piece of paper tucked beneath the lifeless man's hand. Gently prying it free, he discovered a cryptic message scrawled in shaky handwriting. "Beware the secrets hidden beneath the Terrible Road." The message sent a chill down Nate's spine. What secrets could lie buried beneath this desolate stretch of asphalt? Determined to unravel the truth, he decided to delve deeper into the mystery, convinced it held the key to his own survival. Leaving the haunting room behind, Nate continued his exploration of the abandoned house. Every creaking floorboard and gust of wind seemed to whisper of hidden secrets. He searched meticulously, combing through old photographs, handwritten letters, and faded documents left behind by previous occupants. In a dusty attic, Nate stumbled upon a stack of journals, their pages yellowed with age. As he flipped through their worn covers, he discovered a series of entries chronicling the history of the terrible road. The journals revealed tales of tragedy, disappearances, and even whispers of a dark pact made by a group of desperate individuals who sought power and fortune. The more Nate read, the more he realized that the man he found dead in the house was no random victim. He was linked to the cursed road and the secrets it held. The journals hinted at a hidden treasure, one that had cost the lives of many who dared to pursue it. Driven by a mixture of curiosity and the need for self-preservation, Nate decided to follow the breadcrumbs left behind by those who had come before him. He marked the locations mentioned in the journals on a map, each spot representing a crucial piece of the puzzle that needed to be uncovered. Venturing back onto the terrible road, Nate traveled to each designated spot, uncovering long-forgotten graves, collapsed structures, and hidden pathways. Each discovery revealed a piece of the dark history surrounding the cursed road, reinforcing the belief that there was something deeply sinister lurking beneath its surface. Finally, Nate arrived at the last marked location, the entrance to an underground tunnel. Its entrance was concealed by overgrown vegetation, as if nature itself was trying to keep the secrets hidden within. With trepidation, Nate stepped into the darkness, his flashlight piercing through the gloom. As he navigated the labyrinthine tunnels, a sense of foreboding washed over him. The air grew stale, and a musty odor permeated the surroundings. Nate's heart pounded in his chest, the sound echoing through the narrow passages. In a dimly lit chamber deep within the tunnels, Nate discovered a hidden cache, an assortment of artifacts, ancient relics, and a journal penned by one of the individuals who had made the Dark Pact. The journal detailed the sinister rituals performed to summon a malevolent force, which cursed the terrible road and claimed countless lives over the years. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Nate knew he had to put an end to this cycle of tragedy. With the artifacts in hand, he retraced his steps through the underground tunnels, following the path of the curse's origin. As he emerged from the darkness, Nate found himself standing at the heart of the terrible road, where it all began. The rain had stopped, and the moon cast an eerie glow over the desolate landscape. In a solemn act of determination, he performed a ritual to break the curse, using the artifacts to sever the ties between the malevolent force and the road it haunted. A surge of energy coursed through the terrible road, and Nate felt the weight of the curse lift. The air grew still, and a profound silence settled upon the once tormented stretch of asphalt. The mystery that had consumed Nate was finally laid to rest. Exhausted but triumphant, Nate made his way back to his car, ready to leave the terrible road behind. As he drove away, the road seemed transformed, its once foreboding presence now devoid of the darkness that had plagued it for so long. Nate had not only solved the mystery of the man's death, but had also broken the curse that held the terrible road in its grip. Though scared by his harrowing experience, he carried with him the knowledge that sometimes facing the darkest secrets was necessary to find redemption and bring closure to those lost in the shadows. From that day forward, the terrible road would be remembered not for its haunting reputation, but as a testament to the resilience and courage of those who dared to confront its mysteries and emerge on the other side. Carlos was a simple man living in a quiet town nestled among the mountains. His life lacked excitement, and he often yearned for something more thrilling. Little did he know that his desire for adventure would lead him down a path of terror and mystery. One fateful evening, Carlos received a call from his old friend, Mark. Mark had always been the adventurous type, seeking out danger and excitement. He told Carlos about a notorious road known as the Terrible Road, where a series of gruesome murders had taken place over the years. Intrigued by the dark allure of the legends surrounding the road, Carlos agreed to accompany Mark on a chilling journey to unravel its secrets. As they approached the entrance to the Terrible Road, Carlos couldn't shake off the unsettling feeling that washed over him. The road stretched ahead, its asphalt cracked and worn, the silence hanging heavy in the air. Suppressing his growing unease, Carlos pressed on, eager to uncover the truth behind the terrifying tales. They hadn't ventured far when a sense of foreboding gripped them. The atmosphere turned heavy, as if the very air held a malevolent presence. Carlos felt a shiver run down his spine, but he pushed forward, determined to solve the mysteries that lay ahead. Suddenly, their car's headlights flickered and died, leaving them enveloped in darkness. Panic surged through Carlos as he struggled to restart the engine. But his efforts were in vain. They were stranded on the terrible road, cut off from civilization. As they sat in the darkness, a chilling silence was broken by the sound of footsteps approaching from behind. Carlos and Mark exchanged fearful glances, their hearts pounding in their chests. With a growing sense of dread, they turned to face the figure emerging from the shadows. It was a man, dressed in tattered clothes, his face obscured by darkness. He spoke in a cold, menacing voice, revealing a twisted obsession with death. Carlos and Mark realized they had stumbled upon a deranged killer, one who had claimed countless victims on the terrible road. Fear consumed Carlos as he realized the grave danger they were in. With a surge of adrenaline, he and Mark bolted from the car, fleeing into the surrounding woods. Their hearts raced as they stumbled through the darkness, branches tearing at their clothes and the sounds of pursuit echoing behind them. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they collapsed, gasping for breath, deep within the forest. The night was filled with terror and uncertainty as they huddled together, hoping to evade the relentless killer who stalked them on the terrible road. Carlos and Mark remained hidden in the dense forest, their hearts pounding with fear. They could hear the sounds of their pursuer growing fainter in the distance, but they knew they couldn't let their guard down. The terrible road had become a nightmare they desperately needed to escape. As the night wore on, Carlos and Mark cautiously made their way through the labyrinth of trees, relying on the moonlight to guide their path. Every rustle of leaves sent a chill down their spines, their senses heightened by the adrenaline coursing through their veins. After what felt like an eternity, they stumbled upon a small cabin, hidden deep within the woods. It was their only chance for safety. They cautiously approached, their hearts still racing, and knocked on the door, praying for someone to let them in. To their relief, an elderly woman answered the door. She listened to their frantic pleas for help and quickly ushered them inside, locking the door behind them. Her name was Martha, a hermit who had chosen a life of solitude in the wilderness. Martha had heard the rumors of the terrible road and the serial killer who haunted its path. She knew the dangers that lurked in the shadows and sympathized with Carlos and Mark's plight. Determined to help them, she offered them a place to hide until they could find a way to escape the treacherous grip of the road. Days turned into weeks as Carlos and Mark took refuge in Martha's cabin. They remained vigilant, constantly looking over their shoulders, aware that the killer could still be out there, searching for them. Martha provided them with food, shelter, and a glimmer of hope in the face of their dire circumstances. During their time together, Carlos learned about Martha's tragic past. Her daughter had been one of the victims claimed by the terrible road, and it was her loss that had led Martha to seclude herself from society. The pain in her eyes served as a constant reminder of the danger they faced. Together, Carlos, Mark, and Martha devised a plan to escape the clutches of the terrible road. They would wait for the cover of night, when the killer was least likely to be prowling the area, and make a daring dash for freedom. Finally, the night came when the moon was hidden behind a thick veil of clouds, cloaking their movements in darkness. Carlos, Mark, and Martha made their way stealthily through the woods, avoiding any sign of civilization that might give away their presence. Hours passed, their nerves on edge, until they reached a nearby town. They stumbled into a police station, their faces etched with fear and desperation. The authorities were skeptical at first, but after hearing their story and verifying their identities, they launched an investigation into the terrible road and the serial killer who haunted its darkened stretch. Months went by, and as the investigation unfolded, the truth about the terrible road began to emerge. The killer's hideous crimes were uncovered, and justice was served as he was apprehended and brought to trial. With the nightmare finally behind them, Carlos, Mark, and Martha could finally breathe a sigh of relief. They had escaped the clutches of the terrible road, but the memories of that horrifying ordeal would forever be etched in their minds. In the years that followed, Carlos and Mark vowed to raise awareness about the dangers of the terrible road, urging others to exercise caution and avoid its treacherous path. Their survival became a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the will to overcome even the most terrifying of circumstances. As for Martha, she found solace in knowing that her daughter's memory had been honored and that her sacrifice had helped save the lives of others. She returned to her secluded cabin, finding peace in the solitude once again, forever haunted by the memory of the terrible road. The highway stretched out before Ben, the asphalt disappearing into the horizon. He adjusted his grip on the steering wheel and tightened his fingers around it. It was a dark, moonless night, and the only source of light came from the beams of his headlights cutting through the thick fog. Ben felt a shiver run down his spine as he wondered what lay ahead on this desolate stretch of road. He was on his way to visit his parents in a small town several hours away. The journey should have been uneventful, but something about this highway felt eerie. He had heard stories of accidents and disappearances along this route, but he had always dismissed them as urban legends. Yet, as he drove further into the night, a sense of unease began to settle in. The road seemed to grow narrower, the trees crowding closer to the edges, as if they were trying to swallow the highway whole. Ben's eyes darted from side to side, searching for any signs of life, but the darkness enveloped everything. He glanced at his GPS, which showed that he was still on the right path. Yet doubt gnawed at him, making him question if he had made a wrong turn. Just as Ben was about to give in to his growing anxiety and turn back, he saw a faint glow up ahead. It flickered like a distant candle, drawing him closer. His curiosity piqued. He accelerated towards the light, hoping it would lead him to some answers. As he neared the source of the glow, Ben's heart skipped a beat. He found himself in front of an old, dilapidated gas station. The pumps were rusted and out of order, and the building's windows were cracked, barely holding on. It looked like it hadn't seen any customers in years, yet the light was coming from inside. Ben parked his car, hesitating for a moment before stepping out. The wind howled through the trees, and he could swear he heard whispers carried on its gusts. Ignoring the unsettling feeling creeping up his spine, he cautiously pushed open the creaky door and entered the gas station. Inside, the air was stale, and a thick layer of dust covered everything. The flickering light came from a dimly lit bulb hanging from the ceiling. Ben's eyes scanned the empty shelves and the ancient cash register. Then, in the corner of the room, he spotted an old man hunched over a table, surrounded by weathered maps. "Excuse me," Ben called out, his voice echoing through the silence. The old man slowly looked up, revealing tired, hollow eyes. "Can you help me? I think I might be lost." The old man's lips curled into a faint smile, revealing a set of yellowed teeth. "Lost, you say? Well, my boy, you've come to the right place. This highway has a way of taking you to unexpected destinations. But be warned, not all who wander here find their way back." A chill ran down Ben's spine as he listened to the old man's cryptic words. He wanted to ask for clarification, but something told him he wouldn't get a straight answer. Instead, he thanked the old man and quickly made his exit, eager to leave the eerie gas station behind. Back in his car, Ben hesitated for a moment, contemplating whether he should turn back or continue on this mysterious highway. The old man's warning echoed in his mind, but a nagging curiosity pushed him forward. With a deep breath, he gripped the steering wheel once again and pressed on, determined to uncover the secrets this road held. As Ben continued his journey along the dark and desolate highway, the feeling of unease persisted. The road seemed to stretch on endlessly, surrounded by an impenetrable darkness that seemed to close in on him. He couldn't shake off the image of the old man's warning or the whispers that had carried on the wind. Hours passed, and Ben's eyes grew heavy with fatigue. He fought to keep them open, afraid that if he closed them, he might lose his way entirely. Just when he thought he couldn't go on any longer, a glimmer of light appeared in the distance. It grew brighter with each passing moment, promising a reprieve from the oppressive darkness. Relieved, Ben followed the light, hoping it would lead him to safety or at least some semblance of civilization. As he drew closer, the light revealed itself to be a small roadside motel, its neon sign flickering in the night. The vacancy sign flashed intermittently, as if beckoning him to take shelter. Ben parked his car and wearily entered the dimly lit lobby. The motel seemed frozen in time, with worn-out furniture and faded wallpaper. The receptionist, an elderly woman with tired eyes, greeted him with a weary smile. "Welcome, traveler. Looking for a room?" she asked, her voice filled with a hint of sadness. "Yes, please," Ben replied, his voice laced with exhaustion. "Just for the night." The receptionist handed him a key and directed him to his room, warning him to lock the door and not to wander out after dark. Ben thanked her, eager to find some respite from the unsettling journey he had been on. Inside the room, he collapsed onto the bed, the weight of his weariness crashing down upon him. As he drifted into a fitful sleep, his dreams were plagued by shadows and whispered voices. He jolted awake in the middle of the night, his heart pounding in his chest. The room was plunged into darkness, the only illumination coming from the faint glow of the moon filtering through the curtains. Ben's eyes scanned the room, searching for any sign of movement. And that's when he saw it, a figure standing in the corner, partially obscured by the shadows. Fear gripped him as he watched the figure slowly advance towards him. Its movements were unnatural, jerky, and disjointed. Ben's voice caught in his throat as he tried to scream, but no sound escaped his lips. The figure loomed over him, its face hidden by a veil of darkness. Just as the figure was about to reach out, the lights flickered back on. The room was empty, devoid of any presence. Ben's breath came in ragged gasps as he tried to calm his racing heart. Had it all been a hallucination, a figment of his exhausted mind? Morning came, and Ben checked out of the motel, eager to put the nightmarish experience behind him. He resumed his journey on the highway, the road stretching out before him like an unending path. The events of the previous night lingered in his thoughts, a haunting reminder of the darkness that lurked within this desolate place. As the highway gradually led him back to civilization, Ben couldn't help but feel a sense of relief wash over him. The mysteries of the highway would forever remain etched in his memory, a tale he would recount with a shiver to anyone willing to listen. He had escaped its clutches, but he knew that not everyone was as fortunate. And so Ben drove on, forever changed by his encounter with the eerie highway. The whispers and warnings would forever echo in his mind, a reminder of the secrets that lay hidden in the darkness, waiting for the unsuspecting traveler to stumble upon them. Gwen gripped the steering wheel tightly as she navigated her car down the dark highway. The rain pounded against the windshield, creating a disorienting pattern of blurred lights. She was on her way to a job interview in a nearby city, and the late hour and stormy weather added to her growing anxiety. The highway seemed endless, with no other vehicles in sight. The sparse streetlights cast eerie shadows that danced along the road, playing tricks on Gwen's weary mind. As she drove further into the night, a sense of unease settled in the pit of her stomach. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught Gwen's attention. She squinted through the rain-splattered glass and saw a figure standing at the side of the road. drenched and shivering. Her heart skipped a beat as she debated whether to stop and offer help. Compassion won over caution, and she pulled over, rolling down her window. "Are you okay?" she called out over the storm, her voice barely audible. The figure turned, revealing a disheveled woman, her eyes haunted and her clothes clinging to her wet body. "Please, I need a ride." "Something terrible happened," the woman pleaded. Gwen's instincts told her to be cautious, but she couldn't leave someone stranded in the pouring rain. She unlocked the car doors, and the woman gratefully climbed in, her trembling hands leaving wet streaks on the upholstery. As they continued down the highway, Gwen couldn't help but notice the woman's nervous glances in the rearview mirror. An uncomfortable silence filled the car, broken only by the relentless rain drumming on the roof. Gwen's mind raced with questions, but she decided to give the woman space to share her story in her own time. Finally, with a tremor in her voice, the woman began to speak. She told Gwen about a nearby town, hidden from view, where a dark secret lurked. People had been disappearing without a trace, and the town's inhabitants whispered of a malevolent force that dwelled in the surrounding woods. As the woman's story unfolded, Gwen's heart raced. She listened intently, her eyes scanning the road ahead, half expecting something to materialize from the darkness. The woman begged Gwen to take her as far away from that town as possible, fearing for her life. Gwen's grip on the steering wheel tightened. She had unwittingly become entangled in a web of mystery and danger. Her instincts told her to turn back, to abandon this treacherous path, but her compassion and curiosity pushed her forward. Gwen couldn't ignore the woman's plea for help. Her empathy drove her to continue down the highway, determined to uncover the truth behind the mysterious town and the disappearances that plagued it. The rain intensified, drumming on the roof of the car like a relentless symphony of uncertainty. As they traveled further, the atmosphere grew heavier, as if the air itself held the weight of the town's secrets. The woman directed Gwen to take a turn onto a narrow, winding road that led deeper into the wilderness. The dense trees closed in around them, casting long, distorted shadows that danced in the car's headlights. The woman, now visibly shaken, recounted tales of strange rituals and the lingering presence of something malevolent. The town's residents spoke of eerie whispers that echoed through the night and the chilling sensation of being watched. Gwen's skin prickled with a mix of fear and fascination as she listened, her determination solidifying with each passing moment. They reached the outskirts of the town, where a sense of desolation hung heavy in the air. Dilapidated buildings lined the streets, their broken windows staring back at Gwen like empty, soulless eyes. The woman pointed to a weathered inn, its once vibrant sign now faded and barely readable. Gwen parked the car and took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. The rain had reduced to a drizzle, but the heaviness in the air remained, thick with anticipation. She turned to the woman, their eyes meeting briefly, and silently pledged to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Together, they entered the inn, stepping into a realm frozen in time. Dust-covered furniture sat untouched, cobwebs hanging like delicate lace. The flickering glow of an old chandelier cast eerie shadows on the walls. The silence was deafening, broken only by the distant howl of the wind. As Gwen explored the inn's empty corridors, she stumbled upon a room concealed behind a hidden panel. Curiosity overcame her, and she cautiously pushed open the door, revealing a hidden chamber bathed in an otherworldly glow. Symbols and markings adorned the walls, their meaning lost to time. It was a room steeped in dark rituals and forgotten secrets. Her heart pounding, Gwen knew she had stumbled upon the heart of the town's darkness. The woman beside her trembled, fear etched deeply into her features. Their search had led them to a point of no return, a crossroads between unraveling the truth and succumbing to the clutches of evil. Together, Gwen and the woman delved further into the mysteries of the hidden chamber, piecing together the fragments of a dark history. They uncovered a connection between the disappearances and the ancient, forbidden practices that had consumed the town. Armed with the knowledge they had unearthed, Gwen and the woman faced a pivotal choice: expose the town's secrets to the outside world, or confront the evil head-on, risking their lives to put an end to its reign of terror. As rain continued to fall outside, Gwen made her decision. She would not allow the town and its dark secrets to continue devouring innocent lives. With a newfound strength born of determination and empathy, she embarked on a mission to unravel the truth and bring justice to those who had suffered. The journey was perilous, fraught with danger and unexpected revelations. Gwen faced her deepest fears, confronted the darkest corners of the town, and ultimately emerged triumphant. The evil that had plagued the town was exposed, its power shattered. Gwen and the woman, now bonded by their shared experience, stood together on the outskirts of the town. As the rain subsided and the clouds parted, a glimmer of hope pierced through the darkness. The town, once shrouded in fear, began its journey towards healing and redemption. With their mission fulfilled, Gwen and the woman parted ways, forever marked by the haunting tale of the highway and the town's secrets. Gwen returned to her own life, forever changed by the horrors she had faced and the courage she had found within herself.